Welcome to the ultimate beginner's guide to the Street Fighter 6 demo. Today we will be focusing on the fighting grounds portion of the demo. World Tour is the story mode of the demo where you can make an avatar, and you guys can check that out when you get a chance. But today we're going to be focusing on how you can use this demo to improve before Street Fighter 6 comes out, what modes to use specifically for beginners, what modes to use to get better at the game, my recommendations, and breaking down the different parts of the demo. But before we jump into fighting grounds, when you're here on the main menu, before even going into World Tour mode, hit the multi-menu, which is the start button or the menu button. Go to options and make sure you go to graphics and you set it to performance mode. If you have it on resolution mode, it's gonna be below 60 frames per second, and you're not gonna want any of that, especially for competitive play. So definitely put it on performance mode. And you can activate the input delay reduction mode. However, it will cause screen tearing. So if you don't really like screen tearing, I recommend you don't put this on. You can put it on. It will improve input delay by about 1 frame. So use it if you don't mind screen tearing, or if you have a good enough screen that it won't screen tear. So you'll have to try it out and check it out on your own and see if it works for you. But for me, I don't like the screen tearing, so I have it off. But as long as you're in performance mode, you are good to go. Another thing I did want to cover here is you can set your control settings to classic type. There is the modern type, which basically simplifies doing special moves. And then there is the dynamic type, which basically makes everything one button. In other words, all light attacks, you don't really have access to all light attacks, but based on your position and what the computer and your opponent is doing, then it will basically react based on the situation that you're in. If you hit a light attack, a medium attack, or a heavy attack. So it's more AI based in a way in terms of how attacks come out. So it's super simplified. If you just want to jump in, have fun, play the game, and it's your first time ever playing a fighting game, you can go ahead and check out dynamic mode, which you will not be able to use online. But once you get a feel for the game and you're enjoying it, then you can go ahead and jump from dynamic mode to modern mode, which gives you a little bit more control over the moves that you're doing, but it's still simplified. And then there is the classic traditional light, medium, heavy punch. Gives you access to everything. You have everything at your disposal, and you're in control of everything. So no direction button for special moves or none of that. You got to learn the directional inputs for special moves, which we'll cover later in the video. And there is also avatar battle control type. You can set this to classic as well. Towards the end of the demo, you will unlock classic controls literally right before the end of the demo. So if you set this to classic, when that happens, then you'll have access to your light, medium, heavy punches, and it'll play traditionally, just like single player with the classic controls. And that's pretty much the most important things to cover right before jumping into either World Tour mode or Fighting Grounds. Now we can jump into Fighting Grounds. When you first boot up Fighting Grounds for the first time in the demo, it will give you a tutorial. I highly recommend that you run through that basic tutorial. I skipped it because I already know how to play Street Fighter. I've been playing Street Fighter for quite some time, even though I'm not high level or anything like that. So that's why this video is geared more towards beginners and people who just want to have fun. And there'll also be some information in terms of where you can practice, since there is no traditional training mode in this demo, and also how you can circumvent the thank you screen when you play versus the computer. We'll cover that later as well.
Get ready, fighters!
So when you first get into Fighting Grounds, I recommend going through the tutorial section.
It all depends on your skill!
And you can see, based on your control type, at the top, pressing L2 or R2, you can check out the tutorials for dynamic controls. So if you're using dynamic controls, you'd want to hop in there. If you're using modern controls, you'd want to take the modern control tutorial. And then if you're using classic, you want to take the classic beginner tutorials. So these are all accessible to all the different control types that there are. However, the more advanced the control type, the more access you have to more advanced things, which won't be reflected here, since for both the beginner tutorials, it's the same for classic and modern, and it's just different for dynamic, because dynamic has a little bit of I like to call it smart controls, you know, things for you. You just have to press one button and go. So you can check those out. But I highly recommend beginning here. This is gonna show you the basics of Street Fighter, using normal attacks, learning inputs, cross-ups, you know, waking up, the drive gauge actions. It's gonna basically give you a brief overview of everything that happens in a situation in Street Fighter. Not everything that happens, but the majority. Everything you need to know what's going on. So I would recommend starting here. So once you go through all the beginner tutorials for your control type, you'll notice that it'll give you a check mark. The first one will give you a general idea. The second one is about the normal attacks and their different strengths. The third one is about learning special move inputs, which will change between modern and dynamic. It'll also go over combos and canceling, what cross-ups are, how to defend against throws, and how to use throws. The different types of wake up, and of course the drive gauge actions. I highly recommend you go through all of these for your particular control type before moving on to the next portion of the tutorials, which is going to come in the form of a character guide.
It's showtime!
As I mentioned before, character guides is where you're going to go a little bit more in depth to each character and learn aspects of their moveset and things that work for that particular character. So once you're done through the beginner tutorials, I recommend going into character guides and checking out the character guide for the character you would like to play in the demo or learn. In the character guide is where you will also find where you can train. So I highly recommend going through every section of the character guide and paying attention to what they say, taking notes, looking at what the computer does, and learning from it. As far as for the training aspect, if you want to train this particular character, go into Shin Shoryuken after you have completed all the aspects of the character guides. And then here you can practice your combos because you're given full meter, 3 bars for your super, and as long as you don't perform the Shin Shoryuken, it won't take you out of the tutorial. And this applies for all the tutorials. It'll give you an explanation first, and then if you notice, it'll say try. On PS5, it's the touchpad. I'm not sure what it's going to be on other systems, but you can in fact try what they show you after you've watched and seen what they're doing. You just have to hit the touchpad on the PS5 or whatever button it prompts on whatever system it is that you are playing this game on. So keep that in mind. I mentioned this specifically because I saw Tyrone Magnus playing this game, and he was going through the character guide, and he thought the game was going to automatically allow you to try, but no, you have to press the touchpad in order to try it. And then once you do hit that, you can practice with no time limit. You can practice your moves here, combos, anything you want to practice, this is the place to do it. And if you want to reset it, you just hit the touchpad again. It takes you to the preview, hit the touchpad again, and it resets it. So you just continuously try over and over again as many times as you want. And don't forget hitting the touchpad or whatever button prompt appears there on the text of the preview. In any of these guides, you can go ahead and try it out. However, if you complete the move, it'll end the tutorial. That's why it's best to do it here, because the only way you can end this is if you do the Shin Shoryuken. So you can basically practice level 1 super, level 2 super, because you have the meter for it. You can practice combos with level 1 and level 2 supers, everything. This is the place, since there is no training mode in the demo. Then, once you're comfortable from going through the tutorial, you've decided I'm either going to use dynamic control type, I'm going to use modern control type, I'm going to use classic control type, whichever one you choose as your entry point, because this is for beginners. I would say dynamic mode is for, button mash heaven. If you don't want to think, if you just want to press buttons and see cool shit happen on the screen, I recommend using dynamic mode. However, the caveat to that is that if you get used to playing with dynamic mode, you will not be able to use that in any online matches. So as long as you're not going to be playing online, go ahead, have all the fun you want with dynamic mode. But if you are going to be playing online, or if you see yourself getting competitive with the game and you do want to play online, I recommend starting off in modern and then moving on to classic as you increase in skill. Same thing with if you start with dynamic and then later you decide that you want to get into competitive play, you move over to modern, and then from modern transition over to classic. Modern actually has a lot of cool things, like assisted combos and things like that. So it's gonna give you the feeling of more control, allowing you to be in control of exactly what cool shit happens. Whereas in dynamic mode, you have no control over the cool shit that happens, but cool shit will happen. So it's up to you. And then
Go for broke.
after you're comfortable, after you've practiced, after you are ready, you go over to one-on-one battles, right? Turn on your commentary if you want to. It is up to you.
Oh yeah, you know I'm ready.
And turn on commentary settings if you want to. Set your timer to 99 seconds. Set the rounds to 5 rounds so that way you can maximize the amount of times that you face the computer. Then go in, choose your character, choose your stage first, of course, and choose your character. Here you can select your control type, whether it's dynamic with AI assisted attacks, modern with one button specials and assist combos, and then classic where you're in control of everything. Another fun thing, if you're new to the game and you want to give yourself a little bit of an advantage if the computer keeps beating you, let's say you have it on 4 levels, CPU level 4, and you want a slight advantage, you go over to advantage and you give yourself some stars. 1 star increases your attack damage. 2 stars starts you off with special arts gauge, which is the gauge at the bottom of the screen at level 1, and it also increases your attack damage. You do 3 stars, you're getting 2 times attack, starting the round off with 2 bars of super, and your drive consumption is halved. If you give yourself 4-star advantage, you're looking at 3 times damage. Special gauge starting off at 3 bars, and drive consumption is still halved, and you get your health regenerated slowly. And of course, if you go all the way, give yourself 5 stars, you got 3 times attack, all the bars of super, drive consumption reduced to 20%, and then your health regenerates insanely fast. So that's how you can give yourself an advantage if you're struggling against the computer while you're learning. Or to just have fun versus matches if you're playing with a friend. Then once you select that, you go over to your opponent and you can select your CPU level. I recommend, if you have some experience in the game, I would say between 4 and 6 CPU level for some experience. No experience, between 1 and 3. And then if you want a challenge, it's either going to be CPU level 7 or CPU level 8. And then if you really want to give yourself a challenge, then you give those advantages that I mentioned to the computer, and then that's the ultimate challenge. And then here you can take what you learned in the beginner tutorial, and you can take what you learned in the character guide, and in that little level 3 tutorial in the character guide is where you could use as a training room. And then after you've trained up and you're ready to face a challenge, then you go ahead and you put the CPU on and you put it at the appropriate levels. Remember, 1, 2, 3, 1, through 3 is basic knowledge. You don't want a big challenge. 4 to 6, you're learning, you're ready to test yourself a little bit. And then 7 and 8, you're looking for a challenge. You've played Street Fighter before. This is nothing new. It's time to, dust the rust off with the CPU. And of course, there's always a way to take advantage of the CPU. If you figure that out, kudos to you. But I'm not going to discuss that in this video. So let's just hop in. We'll play one round and see how it goes.
Our fighters have chosen their characters. The battle is just seconds away. I'm ready for a fight when it's on its own. I'm charging like a bull when it's on its own. This isn't about just winning the match. Pride and bragging rights are at stake here. Both fighters will need to bring their A game to the table.
Triumph or die!
Here we go. What are these fighters going to do? Low kicks are no-go. Not much damage dealt so far, but they may be looking for...
I did want to mention when you're facing the computer,
So they break forward.
there is a 3-match limitation that you can avoid by pressing the start button and going back to mode select. So you can avoid the thank you for playing screen and just start another match faster than playing all 3 matches and then having to go through the menus again.
Player 2 wins the first round, but they'll need to stick to their game plan in order to win. Decides to create some distance to start. Gets a chance with that jump in. The low heavy hits. Uses a long range attack there to zone them perfectly. Did well to get the buff in there. Okay, creating some space here. A good chance here to recover the drive gauge or figure out the next step. Player 2 chases them down. There's a change of side. Blocking that drive impact isn't going to work. Can't tech the throw. A quick breather. They need to rely on their instincts here. Scrapping it out, opts for the throw to close it out. Player 2 straight up put their opponent on a post. There's an overdrive arm. How will they take advantage of brushes that off and keeps going? Ends the meter, hoping for a good return. The level 3 super, looking to make them feel it. Feeling good? Oh wow, look at the damage that did. Fantastic work with that combo. They return to center stage. Player 1 is working with a better gauge. What can they do with it? Gets the jump in. Are they going to be able to come back and stack victories with all critical? What's going to happen? Sets it up. Goes for the Shin Shoryuken. They're willing to go all in here. This is a path I am so looking for a hole.
One last thing I forgot to mention. If you want to see what's possible in this game with the combos and all the systems, just put the CPU versus each other on level 8 and you will see the CPU do insane, crazy, juiced combos. All the sauce is amazing to watch, and I can't wait to get to that point. I hope you guys enjoyed the Ultimate Beginner's Guide to the Street Fighter 6 demo. I hope you guys enjoy playing it. I hope you guys enjoy learning, and I can't wait till June 2nd when this game is finally released. And we can hop online and play with each other, check out the world tour, discover the lore and the stories of our main characters that we love. And I just can't wait to play more online Battle Hub tournaments. So much to come. It's going to be incredible. And I hope you're going to be here for the ride. This is Oni Liger. Take it easy, stay blessed, and I'll catch you out in the streets. Peace.